Hello, my name is Joseph Cook, and welcome to my storybook on live stream. Today I'm going to read this book that the man who preaches and the man who inspires everybody. It's the book that I called TD Jakes Before You Do. Today, this is part one, this book, and I'm going to be reading chapter one and chapter two in this book. And I hope you enjoy this book as much as I do. Hope you enjoy it, so sit back and relax and enjoy with me read. I dedicate this book to my honchos, the Paul's House of Dallas, to my parents in ministry, Bishop Sokol, VIP, Bishop Sokol, Allen's Army, and to all of those who understand that destiny will open its doors based on the integrity of your next food decisions. These are the words of wisdom that I believe would help you with those difficult choices before you do. Into this before you decide. A milestone moment started me in the face, like every father I had impersonated in this situation. I knew I would be an uncertain of my heart's response, except I knew I would feel a tender pain when I remember the long ago little girl in parallels begging to me to push her hollow and hollow on the playground, swing that little girl once went to me for comforting hugs and complaining on her newest selection of hairstyle or an event and her allowed to purchase the latest CD. Now that little girl has blossomed into a beautiful young woman and she was now standing before me, asking for the largest gift I could possibly bestow her freedom. I realized that our meeting for the big as was a fumble today at the certain age. Long people inform you more than they will request. In fact, by all intents and purpose, my little girl and her groom to be well grown. But you and I know that it takes a lifetime to really be grown. Consciously, but not I will use this sober moment to impose some version that I now share with you. Faced with prospect of a new life says Caesar for both of us. Or Caesar will change from daughter to wife, and my season will change from father to father-in-law. I stood before my daughter with immense emotions that swirled in my heart like pins bleeding, blending on all its patches. The reds and yellows of my joy, branded with the blues and violets of the launch of his childhood. All of it was boldened by bright white. The room was warm and filled that the sounds of the busy restaurants. I heard the larger song sax playing from the stage. It Winston caroling moved from note to note and provided the room to stumble. That tremblingly atmosphere of essential relations. Look at the scene to be newless. They, are, they were clearly nervous, especially the room to be, as we began a conversation that I'm considering one of the most important that we will ever have tougher. As the water brought over a streaming bowl of Sean Carter, I'm starting my own Packland conversation. Clearly, there were many more important issues, but there were and there were white or brown or such silverly ones as style the glitter belts and flavor cake icing. This was the greatest step they will ever make. In my opinion, it was a delicious that is too awfully recognizable. My focus was not on the wedding or the size of her train. Grasp it a fresh starting point. I bolted something to my dollars like we had grown up overnight. It was only legendary that you were in pigtails and looking for barriers. She laughed with some embarrassing as I shared a family story about her pointing and talking all her clothes off, taking all her clothes off with her mother and I were in an all-night prayer service. She was 3 years old and had enough. It was a hilarious moment that we often laugh about. We had laughed out loud, remembering and saw with the enormous look on her face and a pile of clothes on the old church wooden floor. Her thumb was in her mouth and I looked up distantly for the full blaze service that went on and on and on. I told her fiance, you had no idea what a pistol you had in my daughter, and we all smiled at the memory. I was trying to break the ice to suddenly explore the conversation. We had not talked to this S10 before. Being a minister, I had seen far too many blissfully beautiful weddings than any in undirected Helena's divorce. So my focus wasn't on the wedding plans, but on the far more difficult process of marriage that were following it. I learned that more times than not, Stella may get her groove back, only to find out that she has been kicked in the ground by domestic violence, or the emotional and painful consequences of not thinking through the next move carefully and honestly candidly. I do not want my daughter hurt. I want her to understand the long-term consequences of her relationship decisions. When the colorful constant pulled sport emotions turned within me as I envisioned my baby girl all in white walking down the aisle. I welcomed the opportunity to address both of them regardless departure, life alternate skill decision. My wife and I had already regularly given our blessings on their engagement and impending mortgage. That I knew that my real opportunity for continuing that 1 minute buzz with the really of members life now lying before me. Both my daughter and her groom were long. He was 21 and she was 19. And nearly, we would have liked to have been older. I believe that marriage, I believe that marriage is for fully grown people. The groom, the groom, of course, was new to me, but I knew that my daughter had always been a precocious child. Now as she stood before me, a young lady, I wanted her to enter into this decision. As the vow said, not eventually, but eventually in the fear of God. Me with a little fear of me, okay? And me, I was acting like a tactical father of the boy, but what do you accept? This was my first child to marry, and I was as instant as a cat in a moon full of walking in tears. And I tend to regain my composure as I continue. What do you see when you look at each other? I asked, smiling incorrectly enough. My daughter and her long man giggled and sparkling out something along the lines of my true love and the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. I nodded and then launched into my thoughts on the outrageous implications of marriage. I hope you see not only the face of loyal sweet and pie, but the face that you wake up next to for the rest of your life. The face that you will watch along age alongside with your own. This will be the face you want to when life seems cold and pains are unbelievable. This is the face of your partner or choice, the one you choose like a warlord, choose a weapon, or an artist or miller. He is, she is, your weapon of choice where you fight layoffs, Mort, Martin Bills, pressure, and a navigator challenge. It's the face that will be beside you if and when your labor plans race through your body and your both changing together. It may be the face you look to when you had to bury one or the other look potential literally. It's the face that you will watch convulsively with the aches and pains or disease and injuries. It's the face that will confront you and the hands you will squeeze with your mother and I pass from this earth and are rolling into the ground. In my 30 plus years of ministry, I've seen couple of faces with rarely or difficult things, from parent children with Down syndrome to rushing to the hospital to find out that their teenagers have been crushed in a car accident. So my perspective there are not organized by the commercials and soap operas of today. Life is not always easy for people. My daughter's carnivore had grown cold. I couldn't help but notice it, but still I continued. The Lord aces, facing past for the first time the modest references of their decisions before them and the cherish of unpredictable scenarios ahead. Then I began a grasp what many don't long until they are much older. Both her mother and knew that life could be brutal and challenges and wildly unimaginable circumstances. Blinding love. Not that I had that intention. I continued on even more sorrowfully during until and into a desert. I was almost preaching out by this time. Marriages is taken so lightly that people feel like they're shopping for a new car. They find one they like, but know that if it breaks down or they'll simply grow tired of it, they can trade in for a newer, shamble mobile and a few else. Newer you wants that. You probably cannot even imagine that situation yet. You must be as despicable as possible, as local, adjusted, and do for in low decisions to commit. Carnivore and committing children, Lord DNA. The first author of laws lead us intoxicate and blind us to the relentless that awaits us in any close relationship. Bills to be paid, doppels to be changed, cars to be repaired, homes to be moved, jobs to be complete, and on and on. Throughout all the seasons of life, this is what you come. This is what you come in commitment to. You're not committing to a lifetime of good charisma or show ideals or that tightening feeling inside. I spread you the rest of my ministerial month. I did not rush to discussing down, diving down intentionally on discussing the joys that mirror life can afford. I am overprotective, father, yes, but my words will not only do to that. I insistently believe in that every relationship decision must be made with a proportionate level of care and desperation and regards to the impact this choice will have on your life. And no other choice leaves as many footprints alongside your own life's journey as the decision to unite yourself with another person, a partner, a spouse, the rappers that the tournament in the lights pond when the stores and mirrors is dropping can become a wooden tile, a joyful companionship, or attentional or Otonian contents. So much of the climate of the rest of your life comes down to this one decision. I cannot count how many times I have stood before coverall dressings in white and asked them, "Do you take this woman to be your lawful wedding wife, to live together after God's undemands? Do you promise to love her, cherish her? Do you take him for better or for worse, richer or poor, in sickness and health, after completing these ensuing vows?" I usually them ask them, "Do you?" And they said, "I do." I had often I had also often wanted to say to them, "Before you do, maybe you should know the facts." Regrets. Life is too short for regrets. That is why it is so important for you to know who you are, what is important to you, and how you want to exist and proceed in the world. The way when things happen, and things will happen in life, good and bad. You lose your job, someone gets sick or dies, your child gets in trouble in school, or your best friend asks you to participate in something you don't agree with. You will easily be able to decide what to do in the moment and later have no regrets. Regrets are meant to teach us what to do better next time. Consider what you could have done differently to prevent whatever situation you regret is a good way to keep from repeating the same mistakes again in the future. Learning to make decisions in the moment based on who you truly are and take actions based on love, kindness, and forgiveness, always with the highest spirit in mind, is the best way to avoid having regrets later. Doing danglers. The senses are like falling dominoes in a line, each one topping of one invisible consequences against another. Our screenwriters and novelists like to explain the power of one single choice is emphasis on those caught in its gravity. Whether it's Jimmy Stewart's chapter in it, A Wonderful Life, or Denzel Washington's chapter in Deja Vu. The power of one invisible decisions can never be underestimated. Forces have been gaining and lost, marriage marrow and torn, children born or buried, all because of one person's decisions, which may have seemed a little importantness at the time. And the soon to be released Screen Games film based on my book. Not easy working. The character Dave and his wife, Clarence, never understood on their wedding day that life has a way of knocking you down. But they soon learn that the wedding is easier than the life that comes after that. And believe it or not, weddings are is are less experiences than many of the mistakes couples make after it. If you see the movie, you will be remembered that life brings real challenges, and people often give way to pressure and scramble over to the pain, losing sight of the past and that first brought them together. They begin to realize that every decision affects them both along with the quality of their marriage. They often drift apart, or the grapple builds into the breaks of sea of anger and disappointment. Of course, we cannot scrutinize, analyze, fantasize about each and every decision we make, or we will become paralyzed by fear, afraid to get out of bed in the morning and choose between cornflakes and Cocoa Pops, wondering whether to wear the blue dress or the brown skirt are not important decisions. Those are not the kinds of decisions I am talking about. the larger, more second fascinating relationship decisions of life. Who and when today. Court and many. Court and marry. Share lifestyle choices and friendships demand that we bring everything we have to the table to ensure that we make the best choice and never look back. Most of us have learned somehow way the importance of relationships, but we do move into these decisions in a way that will ensure positive results. This is what I want to explore with you in this book. Your future is as strong as the decisions that preceded it. I have good news for you. We can make relationship decisions with the confidence, faith, and fortitude that allows us the freedom to enjoy and conquer fulfill life. It's all in how we approach with these decisions. My mother used to say that ignorance is expensive. She was absolutely right. It costs to be informed or even under-informed. Which see, I was given a very equal opportunity to purchase a highly respected marketing firm. It was, it was, and is a stunning business with an impressive list of highly financial companies. I was interested. It has an unprecedented history. And I in I was elected to be given the opportunity to proceed into what could have been and then lost into a deal for all concerned. But I seemed to allow my elections to override my inability. God given sensationally and perspective to caution. I felt that the tones were convincing, considerable, and the profit bargains looking at plausible. Still, I spent much money and time engaged in a professional film to do the due to do the due diligence that I felt in more technical mandatory perspective before I could do business on that level. At the resources stamps of documents, tax returns, financials, important backgrounds, and contract between the intern and its clients. I decided that although it was a good deal, it was not a good for where I am in life right now. It wasn't consistent with the life plan I had in place for myself and my family. So yes, I walked away from what might have been a great deal because the timing wasn't right for me. One of the board members, who I am sure might have underestimated my part seriously to get the facts first, said, "You are not just a preacher, you are an instrument businessman." I smiled but realized that more than that, I am a person who can't afford to make a bad choice and face a setback at this season in life. I had to make every movie, move count. I did not have the lifespan at 50 to recover from a massive setback economically, emotionally, or spiritually that could result from a bad decision. Even my own attorney and economist was surprised at an amount of money and time I invested in making this decision. Sylvia said, "You did all of that and still walk away. The money I spent investigating it might have seemed recent to them, but not me, but not to me. And not that like the issues I raised to my daughter. You cannot make great decisions if you do not take seriously the consequences of that decisions and base your decisions on dark information. Change your mind after you made a decision." One of the pitfalls of decision making is waiting to change your mind after you made a decision. You probably heard the tone borrows remorse that describes the feeling you have when you make a purchase. Usually a loss or expansion, one like a car, a house, or an expensive luxury vacation, and then regret having spent the money. The excitement and over the moon feeling you have when you made the decision to spend the money is quickly replaced by a horrible negative feeling that you made a big mistake. Changing your mind for cruelly once you decide to do something could be a sign that you are not taking and adapting the amount of time to consider other law options or the manufacturers or law decisions before you make them. Life is too short to live with regrets. If you find yourself second guessing yourself, regardless of the decision you made, remember the feeling of English and uncensor the next time you have a decision to make and think twice, raising all your options before proceeding ahead. Pull the trigger. So often I help people to use the expression, just pull the trigger, being committed to the decision and take action. Let's think through this measure for a moment. Some questions must be answered before any of us have any business pulling a trigger or any decision on conspiracies. What gun are you using? How was the weapon accessible and sendable? And perhaps most important of all, what is the target at which you are shooting? You may laugh at me for being so literal in minding here, but I think you understand where I'm going with this model product. The art of pulling the trigger takes only a couple of seconds, but selecting the weapon, understanding it and how to operate it, and making sure that it's in manner and perspective in right directions are equally important as pulling the trigger. Not often overlooking, all these preparations must be made before you pull the trigger, or else you can find yourself shooting a water pistol at a burning house, or, in other words, making clothes you are in preparing algorithm and uncomfortable towards this goal of choosing and using the correct weapon for making bullseye relationship decisions are asking that you make an important decision affecting your future right now. I'm challenging you to share some of the precious time with me between the covers of this book in order to come away with a better, cleaner, stronger, stronger idea on how to make life changing, regrets free decisions about who you relate to. You see that I believe relationship decisions come down to five critical points: resource, gathering information and collating data; book wall, removing objects and clearing the path; rewards, listing sources and the managers their consequences; revelation, knowledge of law appearance and making law selection; reviewer, looking back and adjust as necessary to stay on course. One relationships and the selection are spawns are the core of the book. However, the skill the skills and information of which you share are not exclusively for seeking the companionships. What you learn about decisions making can be a pattern to any area of your life. I will share some way in which you can protect yourself from the highly expensive and emotional and devastating consequences of making impulse decisions, and I can help you prevent losing time in situations which is often caused by the fear of marketing the wrong decisions. All major decisions require de-regulation and involuntary debilitation. Whether you're choosing a husband, selecting a major in college, acquiring property, deciding declining on a new career, buying a company, and determining where you will live. Our goal is to help you realize, like my then soon to be married daughter, that some decisions are so second and significant that you want to make them what as much certainly as possible. If we do, we will confidently into the future with no regrets, training actively like two people on your shoe. My promise is that if you read this book, it will be incredible. You will know all you need to know about making football relational decisions. You will have property advice that you could see into the future in order to make a decision now. I can't grant you the power of property, but I can help you know all you need to know to more confident into the future before you do. One, before you take the first step. Chapter one. Before you take the first step, reflect this script. A journey of 1,000 miles began with the first step. I can trace every success or failure in my life back to something I did or didn't decide effectively. Whether it's the course of developing the relationship, doing business, selecting investments, or accurately invitations. I find a direct comparison between my location on lights highway and my decision to turn, exit, stop, or start. Accidental circumstances beyond my control were always involved more times than not. I was a victim or victor of my own making, achieving or failing because I did or did not put in place the necessary perspectives to accomplish my desired goals. Now, to be sure, I am not a selfish and flagging individual. Reduce this premise to blame and belittle myself for the past decisions and their consequences. No, I am saying that my decisions set the course of my life. I am now being married to the same woman, the mother of my children, for over 25 years. That relationship decision has set the climate of my life much like and their most touching are heating system sets the temperature in a room. In keeping with this concept, persons in the room may not know that the temperature is affected by the smaller increasing movement of a drop of molecule in a device at an unknown location, in spite of its intention to the in, inhabitants of the room it still affects the comfort level of every 1%. Similarly, my key relationship decision and many other decisions I had made affect me and all those around me. Good results are a distinct reflections of my ability to think through, discourse correctly, and move succinctly from the trajectory of my last decision. We all have our own regulatory decisions making process. Sometimes we have to make a small decision, such as choosing a new hairstyle or whether to paint the bedroom. The to paint the bedroom sky blue, periwinkly, or periwinkly. Other times decisions are larger, such as whether or not to move to a new city for the bell job or to keep an old one. We have we each have our own style and ways to oppose the decision making process. Some of us tend to know what we want. We make up our minds quickly and immediately. Other preference to the follow for a long time, weighing all the angels and options before deciding what to do. We left, we reflect, decide. Good decisions making in relationships, business, anything result, everything results from the process of reflection. This commitment, decisions, this truth is recently emerged in a new light for me. I had had the same COO in my for-profit company for nearly 10 years. It was interesting to me to note an observation he made about me, often in people who work with you notice things about you that you had not realized about yourself. He advised some business constitutionalists that it was unwise to oppose me with a presentation that was long and low borders. He had noticed I joked referring to my as my ADD, attention deficit disorder, that my attention really quickly during presentations like those that include history of the company who the founder married in 1802. 1802. I really would rather be spared the gallilations of losing my head in the details that are largely in relation to what I need to decide. In other words, I cut to the chase, answer my questions, and leave me to all my own thoughts. He also shared with them that the hardest part of doing business with me was the millions of questions I'd ask in the name of doing the due diligence, as my COO's remarks, and that they were encountering the persistence of my rewarding reality. Even my staff members on the non-for-profit side of my organizations have learned to come to my expressions, multiple questions, and to be on with the answers before selecting the meat. I do not apologize for this partiality. I believe that good leaders anticipating tough questions and have at their disposal the answers that predicting issues, struggles, and manage the inherently in the normal process of doing business. Sound decisions are based on great information, so the more sacrifices the question, the more due diligence I require. I believe. Important, importantly, important decisions demand strict. We are to be good stewards of great opportunities. We must show respect for those opportunities by the level of delight to which we prepare for the next move. Relationships decisions are among those of the most important choices in your life. And I remind you that not others lead as many footprints alongside your own life's journeys as those you make to unite yourself with other person emotionally, sexually, spiritually. Cool appeal. Several years ago, my wife and I purchased a new home. We did so after seeing our previous home and nearly doubling our intentional expediting for it. I searched all down through the bad neighborhoods and actually trying to find a home that would yield a similar return in the future. Should we decide to sell, I have found a good house in a great neighborhood and began to discuss with my family, friends, and family the possibility of purchasing it. Purchasing it. To my surprise, one of my friends advised me against getting the house. He said, I know you so well that I can hear you ancestry in house law explore the violent proposed home. You see, as though you are trying to convince yourself that the deal is good one. In, in other words, those post tests too loudly. My friend seems to know that I wasn't totally happy with the decision to buy the house, to buy that house. It was a great deal. The house will sell easily little. It will no doubt live at return. The problem was that I didn't really like the house. I liked the deal, but not the house. After this conversation, I had to reflect. My goal of getting a house with a cool appeal that was remarkable for resale was not equally as important as getting a house that I like. Ultimately, I decided that my enjoyment of the house was a second finally consider that I had in mind. Friends, many times we make poor decisions because we had decided what success looks like. Do you like that must include a hot check? Is the goal good looks or good chapter, wealth or happiness, safety or excitement? Is the goal about building someone who looks good or purple or looks good in person? Is the goal to find a person who is economically sound and emotionally stable? Yes, you're right, you are right. It is possible to have both, but neither is possible if you don't decide that these are the goals. What does success look like to you? What compares this as success relationship to you? After looking at over 28 homes all across on the multiplex, I made a choice. But by the time I was ready to choose, I had estimated the return rate of my investment, the likelihood of full closure from my loan, and feasibility that study that look at fair market and comparative properties, properties, properties similar to my investment. The difference this time was that I also fortunately important or lacking what I was going to spend a good amount of years paying for. You may not be able to remain buying a home without this was in consideration. In fact, some people make how they feel about their home, how much they like their home. That number one is considered for this purpose. They don't consider the kind of neighborhood it is in, its potential resale value, or where the market for homes in their Morton area will be in 5 years. They only know that it has a great value, blue appearance, and feels bright and cheery. Maybe you are less inclined to focus on the business or real estate and have little regards to the profitability of a house. Perhaps you granular by nature to the consequences of the house and your ability to enjoy it and decorate it. I realize that there are many buyers who are more interested in a fair share of the house. The conventions are affect talent cancer and the narrowness to schools, and he never considered the real sale value. Both sets of factors, the head and your heart, must come into the equation in making this or any significant decision. You must consider both the hard data as well as the entangling entails. So, with both sets of data in mind, I finally bought a beautiful family estate on Sun Investments Farm Lane. Farm Lane here is a good buy. and the house was all my rather large family will need as we grow into grandchild and in-laws. My new property with, with it's extremely together, providing a home for bobcats, calories, and 300 Angus cows. Every morning when I wake up to the sound of squirrels playing in a tree outside my window and rabbits scolding across the grounds, I know that the value of my home is not just the pleasure, it's including the happiness for which there is no price tag. This reminds me of the MasterCard commercial, in which the price of nominals in items of listening lower by the volume of the total experiences. Priceless. Small decisions versus large financial decisions. There is a certain difference between making small daily decisions such as what to wear or what to order at dinner versus making a larger decisions that will have greater consequences in your life. Large decisions, like making a major purchase such as buying a house, can have ramifications for your financial health for years to come. Moving to a new town or community could affect your relationships with your family and friends and could impact your kids. You have them, if you have them, for the rest of their lives. You are also going to make decisions about relationships in your life. Considerations such as whether to enter into one, get out of one, or change the status of the relationship or decisions you have to make throughout your life. And those shows are not as easy as the prevailing Hollywood 1 minute movies today would lead you to believe in the movies. Things technically turn out happening ever after. This is not to say that won't be the case for you. There is nothing more gratifying than a relationship with someone you love and trust, who you share with your innermost thoughts and feelings. Having a partner to really on, to handle back through life's ups and downs is one of the God's greatest gifts. But choosing that person, whether it is in a relationship, a friendship, or a love relationship, is a decision. Because life isn't like it is in the movies, always 1 minute and easy and a happy ending. You have to make that decisions carefully. Deciding to enter into the commitment relationship such as a marriage is a decision that shouldn't be taken lightly. To death do us part is serious. But it tightly implying feeling a new love well off, and then eventually do. You have to know who you are and who you potentially met is. Knowing things such as what kind of person they are, that chapter, their life goals, their moral and spiritual beliefs, whether or not they are emotionally stable and and available. Any health issues they might have are important, are all important considerations that we don't often see discussed in the movies. They are often considered very one method, but that are in fact in a very part of life and are issues that can wreak havoc on a relationship if not considered. Graders, meaning servers, take risk takers, many conspirators, invaders. And it's often not until after the wedding that people can discover that their sweetheart is the is in thousands of dollars of their bag. And in many states, once you marry someone, the depth is low depth. The depth is low depth. Yep. While couples spend countless hours thinking about Shauna, Shauna partners, or that's just set Uncle Bob next to Aunt Rainey at the recession, and who parents they spend the holidays with. Money is something free a couple of talks about before they head down the aisle. Yet, the number one reason couples go for divorce: financial disagreements. The cost of practice decisions. Too often we overlook these priceless variables in our decisions making. In Luke 14, verse 28, we told that no one desiring to build a tower would do so without counting up the cost to see if they had enough to finish it. Counting the cost is very important. How even it is not enough to count the cost shortly for the proposal or ensuring that you have enough to finish. You must count more than an economic cost. While the most things that make money cost money, dreams and goals often involving more than multi in explaining the truths. Middle lines, budget line items do not add to the bottom line but are priceless considerations in the process of decision making. You will never enjoy the thrill of the priceless experiences until the internal gamble items between the lines are countless in the cause. If you want to make priceless decisions, be sure to be sure you have accountable for the intervals and incredible expense and return. I cannot tell you what is worth to watch the squirrels playing in my backyard. I know that they will not in fact pause vowels properly, but they define contributed to my satisfying smile as I drink my coffee in the morning and watch them dance. My point is that whether you are a very popular property management like me or in an emotional endless, if you do not weigh in on the sum total of what you want, you will never achieve your dreams. Dreams deeply, explaining the head, discreetly what is your heart. It will help the escalator dream to be realized rather than a nightmare that comes from making a decision that is not well thought out and balanced. Planning parenthood. Another explanation for future institutes for the second phases of preparation and deliberation like no other. Parallelly, while we will explore this topic fully in chapter 14, consider, for now, the multitude of decisions are confrontable you are faced with the prospect of parenthood. We are unacceptable a child for the first time. You must prepare yourself, the household, and the lives of those around you to be forever changed by the new life you are about to bump into this world. For Bolsonaro, as present chancellor, mothers must take responsibilities for their own health in order to ensure the health of the growing child inside them. They must make sure that they get proper nutrition, nutrition including vitamins, protein, and folate, all of which have provided vulnerable important to the proper deployment of the baby into a bubble to be must get proper rest and exercise, refreshing from smoking, drinking alcohol, and taking any other substances that will injure or imperil the precious cargo within them. Beyond the mother's health, numerous other considerations must be addressed. Has the household been baby proof? Locks and safety guards must secure the property. Dangerous content of drawings, cabins, and clothes, hard surface and sharp angles must be removed from baby's path or parallel enough to prevent hard knocks. Gates must contain baby's clusters as she learns to crawl and tall enough from room to room. You must also consider the daily needs of your new little bundle of joy. Will you reach vulnerable or breastfeeder or both? Do you have necessary preliminary changing the table, doubles, double rest, alternate, best accessories, clothes, booties, blankos, and heaven forbid, you forget the power of that person. Below that security and sustainability of the environment, there are large concerns about low shells well-being that must be added addressing. How far is the police secretary's office, the hospital? To what school would you send your child? Being private, and not even some politician schools, have waiting lists that span several years before they had an opening. What about higher educations? Have you assessed a cost fund for your child, or at least institute in some type of saving plan for highest or whole future? Parenthood requires planning. God provides that the very first and best example of the ultimate parent, preparing for new arrivals. Our creation did not make Adam and Eve first and then build the world around them. No, the heavens and the earth, the sky and sea, the animals and plants, and all that we had in our world was created first. Then on the sixth day, God created humans in a in the midst of the divine. God had already prepared in place and ensured that they would have provisions. Similarly, in order to be responsible parents, we must prepare our world for the new creation God allows us to bring into this world through the miracle of birth. The miracle of birth. The demands of paternity are challenging enough. We are equally in planning, preparation, and the livelihood changes and application acting the expectations of low baby's arrival. We will be overwhelmed by the process, left to survive by default, providing poorly for your child, and negation of your own needs. Parenthood must be a planning invasion if it is to produce a healthy and happy child. Too often we will see long ladies who really having children as a means to the end. Children are not bragging chefs playing in Vegas to secure a man or his attention, nor are they that fretless craze that I see in Hollywood, but it is now shared and involved to have a child without a family, to surround it with love, friends. His life is precious and importantly, the, and the satisfaction sure that children needs to be reading in a stable environment with loving parents who want them, nurture them, and are ready for the lifelong task of preventing them. I don't say this is true. I don't say this to make anyone feel bad who has had a child in less than ideal circumstances. I understand that we're all humble and everyone can make a mistake. And if I know countless people who, against all odds, have made it work in spite of that of the thoughts states that show that it's a precious choice. But why put yourself knowingly and willing in an uphill race with a broken tennis shoe just to prove you are able to beat the odds? Especially when a little planning and practicing will reward compulsion in law life and the well-being of a child, conventional parliamentary, left with less than ideal advantage, designated to spend his whole his of life trying to overcome justice that was out of her or her control. Life is hard enough when the stage is set and the players are in place. Life is filled with clearances, but baby mama drama is far worse than you might imagine. It has been the source of many people's pain for years. We must begin to teach our daughters and our sons that actions cause reactions. The consequences of teenage pregnant percentages, and a random pregenesis at any age can be intense and detrimental to all involved. When I was growing up, people who made mistakes found themselves in such compulsion situations. But today, you see too many young girls listening to the tantalizing lyrics, songs suggesting that having a man's baby is like bodying him at what time. What would have thought that the time will come that a young girl will walk up to a guy and tell him, "I want to have your baby." This is ridiculous. Neither hip hop nor R&B songs tell you the truth. The baby's growing up, ask questions, share tales, and many times start searching for the missing part of their destiny. The family secrets and confidence and often leads up to the bouts of depression in our life. Time battle with a lost self-instinct. I am glad to say that such mistakes are not terminated and regret doesn't sing of the end of the world. Many people had, especially such advisors, become producers of contributions to scholarship and have made countless strides for the better of all. However, more times than not, such difficulty requires the whole family working to tip the scales and give the innocent child a better chance of succeed. I'm confident I had this situation in my own family and will discuss that in more detail later. But I essentially warn you that the starts of, for instance, suicides and drug abuse show that the numbers go up with morals break down and the child comes from a single parent home for the sake of all the grandparents who are on fixed incomes and reckless and who are trying to keep up with grandbabies on big wheels for the sake of grandmothers who are trying to find a ride to the school for conferences instead, antennas to the garden in their back lawns. Let's stop this madness. One decision can sentence your whole family to a lifetime of homework and heartbreak. It could all be involved by just waiting a little while longer to do things right. We are not ready to lead another life for the next 30 years or so. Slow down. Babies who have babies lose a lot of important experiences and office are faced with the 2 months too fast synonyms that leave all communities on life support and all marriage on respirations. We all have regrets. We all have regrets. It's a part of life's learning process. But as we get older and progress through life, hopefully we learn to stop and recognize situations that feel familiar. What if we go on? We might regret our actions or something we said. Then we represent what a smaller situation we choose to behave differently. We heard them saying the definition of illusionary is doing the same thing. over and over, expecting a different outcome. Same holds true for regrets. Each of us can think back over our life and point to our true regrets. Perhaps there was a phone call you should have made to apologize to a friend whose feelings you hurt, but by not doing so, the friendship ended and now you regret it. Or maybe you lied to your last partner about something you did. They find out and let you saying they could never trust you again. You realize you hurt them badly and now you wish you had done things differently. It is important to make peace with our regret by taking ownership of what we did. Apologize when necessary, and then work to put an end to repeating the same mistakes again. Dr. Marla Angela, Dr. Marla Angela said something very profound about looking back over our mistakes. You know better. You do. You know better. You do better. We all had needs. God including companionship in human creation. It is a valuable need as a food and water. It is important that want as for many people such as solution need that often make rash and international decisions. They are more horrible with being alone than entangling of being or with being unhappy. It is impossible to make good decisions when the decisions is woefully the fear of being alone or the fear of being rejected. Worse still, it is the embarrassment that many of us feel that stops us from admitting our needs to have someone share our lives with us. Lately, our scholarship has lost compassion for those who express that need. It seems far more unfathomable to act as if we don't need anyone. But this may get you a good and man at the water cooler in an office. In reality, it doesn't reflect on real facts. We create we created with a need for soccer socialization. There is absolutely nothing wrong with feeling that need. The problem begins with the need we has you. Many people today are compulsible when it comes to attracting attention to themselves in order to fulfill their needs, often by someone who doesn't really fit who they are or where they are going. When you ignore warnings and compulsion in your principles, it leaves scars that may not even fully disappear. Scars leads to this craze of detachment and denial of any need for others is not a good goal. And you and I should involve the technology to dismotivate people just because they want love and socialization in their lives. Many who do admit to being lonely or waiting to be loved and are met with stern bulls and hairs with blood and told to change their ways of thinking. Loving someone is not weak. We must begin accepting ourselves for having that need. You may then go even further by acknowledge that you are someone who flourishes who are in social environment. Others need a person to support them and if they had that persons if they had that person, this is all they require. Many people would like and support group that refreshes them and gives them a sense of belonging. Either way, it is not one to have the need. Most of us great at disagree or gratification where we are contributing to someone else's well-being, and when that effort is a presentation. We feel warm and friendly. It is not one to need either one. It is important to know themselves, thyself. Hard evidence. The first step is making the first step in making life change decisions. Even the most personal and emotional ones, without regrets is resources. Resources, resource, fears, or decisions by yielding the information which we can base a sound decision. This is similar to a court case in which lawyer's job is to present the evidence on which the jury will reach a verdict, and the judge will hand down a decision. The case is no stronger than the evidence that is gathered. The strategy for the trial is fundamental on the advice evidence. It's choosing the relationships, making themselves a hard jury, one that is not easily confronted, and that requires concrete information on before the reaching the verdict. The decision when being by law verdict may alter the quality of law life. It is better than learning to expression this process and ensure that the decision is important than to reach a hasty conclusion that trivializes all those involved. To those of us who often put to the guessings of the whole of the decision because we feel intimidated by a lack of education or any other witness. I will relay I will relay you with this statement. It is not how much you know that arms you with the tools of great decisions making, but whether how much you ask questions. The most intensely people I ever met were people who ask questions on sciences, art, religion, questions that most others took for granted. You can never know more than you are willing to ask. A friend of mine, who is a college professor, tells me that usually his brightest students ask the most questions. In fact, he tells his pupils on the first day of class that there are no stupid questions in his classroom. He works hard to create a safe environment for their quality, the delightful, refreshing, and problem solving. The smart ones are questioning after questioning and seriously in that case and accurate in the teacher. What we often criticizing as the terrible tools, when a tool runs behind the mother's asking why, 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 is nothing more than the child's answer mind accelerating at a remarkable rate. In accumulating, accumulating and colonizing the receiving data based on the questions that she dares to ask. Hazard decisions. Knowing who you are and what you want is vital to participate in a successful relationship. But it seems contaminations to focus on who you are versus who you are versus on who the two or you are as a couple. The whole is only as strong as the parts. This is especially true for women. Women who have made tremendous gains in our scholarship. True scholarship. After all, it's not uncommon for a woman to be a CEO, a race car driver, or even a presidential candidate. Not all scholarship involves TV shows and popular books and magazines still suggest that a woman who is acting commandingly and dimension is far more acceptable and this braver than one who speaks her mind and asks for what she wants. Truly successful and multiple benefits relationships based on each party being truthful and upfront about the well wants, desires, and feelings. While essentially, as a couple, you must make decisions together. Decisions about who you are as a person, and you all want your life to be all yours alone to make. Allowing someone else, a relationship partner, a friend, a parent, or anyone else, to make decisions for law, to make decisions for you is a mistake. When you let someone else decide who you are and what you want, you give away the power that God gave to you. And doing nothing is not making the decisions. Sitting back and pretending not to see a situation for what it is, put a counselor about what to do until something happens. We had no choice but to go one way or another. It's just as bad as letting others make decisions for you. It's passive and in the end won't likely serve you very well. Sometimes circumstances are what they are, but you always have the choice to decide who you want to be within them. We must never attempt to silence that total within each of us that continues to question all in thoughts, surroundings, and selections. The inconspiration process often leads me to consider factors I had never before considering with my real estate process. I had taken a crash course in real estate, asking questions about those 20-year-old houses. I came to understand the laws of zoning and planning in our city. I knew a little more about intention and design, design. Terms like fetish out were not part of my vocabulary. Filmmaking violent and compassionate and compatibles were not in a very were not in my verbal vocabulary cause I keep asking why. Before I made a decision to buy a house that would leave me with a note for the next 20 years. If you are to make decisions that you will never regret, then you must be willing to think through all the sort of character, professionally and personally. Senator Francis and suggested Delo driving and son sanctifying much of the anxiety and later regret that comes from the way of Lord decisions can be allowed rarely or involved together. If we assemble all our information that which is clearly contextually, as well as the risk may seem unconspicuously before you do. That's the end of this chapter one. Next time we'll be doing chapter two of this live stream. I will be doing tomorrow's on chapter two, start probably at 4 o'clock. Until then, this is Joseph Cook. I will be seeing you probably next time. Until next time, take care everybody. Enjoy.